Hey guys, it's Alan Thomas with Rethink Dieting, and today on the live, I'm going to dig into some waters that are going to cause some of you to bark. Actually, the dog's out the window barking. It's nice weather in Florida, so anyway, what a way to start a Facebook Live with my long-haired dachshund barking his head off. So I'm used to hecklers, and they sometimes come with four legs, so that's it. But today, like I said, talking about something that's probably going to rub some people the wrong way, and I don't do it from a perspective to make somebody angry. I do it from a perspective to wake somebody up. And my story, for those of you that are watching me for the first time, is I struggled with obesity for decades, and when I was 55 years old, I reached the size of 304 pounds at 5'11". And after spending decades in the life insurance industry, I knew that if I was going to live much longer, I would have to change, because I dealt with the senior market, people, men and women that are over 65 years old. And I could not remember, in the thousands of interviews that I did with clients, ever meeting a man that was over 65 that had more than 100 pounds of weight to lose. And so what it meant to me was certain death. And over the next 10 years. And also, but really more important to me, what it meant was that my wife would call me her first husband, because I'd be gone. Not because she kicked me out, not because she got tired of me, because I couldn't put down the fork. And what it would mean would that somebody else would get to walk my daughter down the aisle. Somebody would get to spend time with my three sons as a father figure, because I wasn't there, because I couldn't put down the fork. And it was really this awakening in me, standing there on the scale, staring at 304 pounds on March 2nd, 2017. And fast forward 260 days, I was 129 pounds lighter, and everything had changed. And what was different, was it a special diet? No. Did I have to change what I eat? Yeah. I mean, I ate completely differently. Did I have to change my exercises? Well, sure, it helped. But at the end of the day, it was always about a decision. And I just never been willing to decide and plant my stake in the ground and say that it's enough being overweight. And what it's led to is a mission that my wife are on. We're on a mission to change the trajectory of obesity. And this morning I was thinking about something that I've thought about a lot. I'm a Christian, and I've been accused of being a Christian before, which that isn't always the case, because I'm certainly not perfect. But being in Christian circles, and I've noticed that the Christian circles that I've run around in, we were homeschooling in South Carolina, churches here in Florida, and different churches that we've been members of. The Christian circles tend to look a lot like the world, unfortunately. And from an obesity standpoint, they definitely did. And I knew that. And I actually did some research, just some real quick research today, and found out something even more alarming. But I want to kind of take you guys through the parable of the lost son. And Jesus talks about it in Luke 15. And most of you guys, anybody who's ever been to church or spent much time there, probably knows this parable. Go look it up, read it on your own. Don't take my word for it. But Jesus is given an analogy or a metaphor or parable for how God sees us, and he talks about the son who goes to his father and wants his inheritance before dying, and the father gives it to him, and he goes away and lives wildly. Wild living is actually the term that's used in one of the translations that I was reading. Wild living. And every time I've heard that talked about, I've heard it talked about from a perspective of drunk, being drunk, drinking alcohol, doing a lot of partying, maybe dealing with prostitutes, those kind of things. And the son comes to his senses, and the father's waiting on him. And you guys know the rest of the story. But what I want to dive into is this idea of what wild living really meant. And really, I believe it meant gluttony. Well, people say, well, sure, that's a bad thing and all, but I want you to think about, from a perspective of, obesity is the result of gluttony. It was certainly the result of my gluttony. I didn't become 304 pounds because I ate a very moderate diet. I overate. I overate for what my body needed, and without going to a lot of detail here, it's just simple. It's not complicated. If you overeat, you're going to gain weight. I mean, and people say, "Well, I can't lose weight." Well, maybe you can. I certainly felt that way, and I can I can really empathize with this. But I just wonder if we looked at it from that perspective. I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of individuals that are out there every day in the Christian community, and if you think about, I've used this metaphor before, but especially in the Southeast, when you're talking about Protestant churches for the most part, which is most of the time what we've gone to, and if a church leader walks into that church and they've got alcohol in their breath, they're not drunk, they just got alcohol in their breath, they will be swiftly confronted, likely removed from a leadership position, and basically chastised in that way. But that same leader, that same church, if a leader is 50, 25, 50, 100, 200 pounds overweight, and I've seen it even more so, and that leader goes to a church dinner and has 3 plates of fried chicken, plus the biscuits and all the fixings, like we call it down here in the South. So big plates of food. And you've seen this probably if you've been in a church in the South. They have 3 plates. They don't go just back for seconds. They go back for thirds, like I used to personally. Now, I was not in leadership in a church, but still, we're all leaders in one regard or another. If that individual does that, goes back for seconds, goes back for thirds, the only thing that he's going to be asked of the members of that church is what they would like for dessert. And I find that really interesting, because I think the wild living that Jesus is talking about includes gluttony. I really do. And if the Christian community would look at it that way, I think it'd be very different, because if our churches were filled up with people who smelled of alcohol, and I'm condemning anybody who drinks if you can handle it. I'm really not. It's because that's a personal decision. There's nothing I can find about it being wrong, as long as you can hold it, as long as you're not drunk. but if the churches were filled with people who lived wildly and smelled of alcohol, they would be up in arms in a second. But with 40-50% obese, 70-80% overweight, nobody says a word. That's not culturally acceptable. But it speaks to our responsibility, our role in the world. We're called to be salt and light to the world. Is that really us being salt and light? And like I said, this is going to probably rub some people the wrong way, and I'm sorry if it does, but I want you to think about that. I want you to think about it. And again, I'm not calling for a weigh-in to validate whether somebody's qualified for leadership. And somebody can be overweight and handling it. Like, I've got individuals in the Rethink Dieting program that are handling it. They're getting it done. But if they're not handling it, if they're ignoring it, they're still going that. Is that really something that we want to continue with? And so I did some research just to see, maybe the Christian community is in better shape than the rest of the world. Maybe my assessment from going in churches I'd been raised in and been to all of my adult life was really something that I was inaccurate. So I started doing a little quick Google search. And what I found was even more alarming. Christian, you're more likely to be overweight and obese according to several studies. And I'm not going to cite all those studies. You can do your own research. Check me out. Make sure that I'm telling the truth. But you're more likely to be overweight if you're a Christian. Well, what is that? Is that not the craziest thing in the world? We should be salt and light, because that leadership is looked at. And I'm telling you, in the marketplace, when in the churches, wherever if we're known as being Christians and we're not stepping up and living the best version of ourselves, taking care of the vessel that God's given us, are we not hypocrites? Are you kidding me? I mean, and so when I look at this, I just think the enemy is just laughing his head off. He's laughing his head off, because he's not using adultery. He's not using drunkenness. He's not using murder. He's not using theft. He's not using covetousness. He's not using all these things that we talk about are the big ones, the big 10, the 10 commandment thing. He's not using any of those things. I think I threw one in there that isn't in the 10 commandments. He's using a fork and spoon to take out a generation. Are you kidding me? I keep saying that. I mean, and so this is an obesity crisis. And I just say this. I mean, again, my intention is not to judge. I haven't got a gavel here, because I'm just like the people that are obese. Every one of you, I've been there. I'm just on the other side of it. I'm not obese anymore, and I'm helping people escape obesity now. But I say to this, if you're listening to this and you're a Christian, and especially if you're in leadership begins with the individual, the personal decisions that we make. And there's nothing more powerful than for somebody to stand up and do it and get the job done and get the weight off, or do that thing that is so challenging, do that thing that they talk about, and not to be talkers of the word, but be doers of it. And so I challenge you, Christians, if you're hearing this, start with the person sitting between your elbows. Make the changes necessary. Make those changes. And I've never found it to be the diet to be the issue. Not one time. People laugh at me and they say, you really coach people on how to lose weight without giving them a diet? I said 100%, because it's never been the problem. I've never run into that being the problem. Do they have to change what they eat? Of course they do. I mean, I say it all the time. There is no magic pill, but it's always a decision. It's the mindset that goes into the weight loss that changes everything. And what's so interesting is if we would take this role, this opportunity, and I see it as a really big opportunity. I don't see it as something that's necessarily bad. I see it as an opportunity. If as Christians, if we made the decision and got the freaking weight off, okay, you could be, and I've said this before, there could be 1,000 people in a setting, and 999 of them be perfect weight, ideal weight. But every one of those individuals has some weight they carry, whether it be they've cheated on their taxes, or they've hurt somebody, or they've run around on their husband, or they've run around on their wife, or they've done something that wouldn't be acceptable, and they're carrying that weight. Or they're struggling with alcohol, or struggling with drugs, or they're struggling with pornography, or they're struggling. You can go down the list of all the different things. And that one individual of that 1,000 who is obese, if that individual takes action, it's going to inspire and encourage the other people to take action in areas of their life, because their areas are hidden. The area of obesity and overweight cannot be hidden. It's impossible. I'm sorry, unless you're living in the dark, living in just hiding out. There is no hiding. When I weighed 304 pounds, I could put on everything dark in the world, and I was still going to be obvious that I was overweight. In fact, when people found out I only weighed 304 pounds, they were probably like, "Oh my God, I thought you weighed 600 pounds." And so when you look at the opportunity, but when you get into action with it, you take the action and you get the job done, then it's going to encourage somebody else to take action in their life. It's going to encourage somebody else to move forward in a way that they haven't moved. And I see it all the time. When individuals in our Rethink Dieting program, men and women both, when they start taking the action and the visible results start happening, it inspires other people. It does. And that's being doers of the word. So I'm a little preachy here, and forgive me. I'm not taking an offering here. But I want to say this to you. I challenge you to do whatever you have to do to get it done. It's not just your health. It is important. I want you to be healthy. I want you to live a long time. I don't want you to have type 2 diabetes and have amputations and be on insulin shots, or having the shame of being, your spouse walking out on you because of your obesity, or having to walk into a meeting and worry about where you're going to sit because of the embarrassment of your obesity, and worried that it's going to be that way, or getting on an airplane and the seatbelt not fitting. You have to ask for a seatbelt extender, or taking your kids to a theme park and getting on a ride, and the person who's running the ride says, "You got to get off. You're too big. We can't fit you on there." Or going into a restaurant and having to look for a particular booth because you can't fit in the booth. And I can keep on going, because I lived every one of those things. I lived them all. But what if you did the very simplest thing you could do? The most simple thing of them all. You got control of your eating. You made some decisions around that, and the weight started to come off. Not as fast as you want. It never does, but it comes off. And then you got momentum in that area, and you got something called confidence. And I see it happen all the time. Again, I see it when that first 20 comes off or first 10 comes off, and the confidence shifts. And then you start believing that you can do things that you haven't done in a long time. You start being open to possibilities, and it's magnetic to other people. It's magnetic, and people want to be around that, and they want to learn from you, and they want to see not just what you're doing for weight loss, but they just want to know that it's possible for them too to overcome whatever they've got to. Could we not ignite the world by putting down the fork and spoon a little earlier in our meal? How about that for an idea? So if you're, and I hope this serves somebody. Again, no shame here, but it's time you do something about it. If you know who you are and you're struggling, take some action. If you don't know what to do, go check out, I've got a free training at rethinkdieting.com, and it walks through the 5 steps that my wife and I personally walked through to lose together. We lost 192 pounds in 260 days. I lost 129. She lost 63. And then if you want to have an honest conversation and map out a step-by-step strategy to get the weight off, go to transformmyfuture.com/apply. And that's coming across the screen, transformmyfuture.com/apply. But do something about it. And be encouraged. This is an opportunity. This is not something that you can't do. It really is an opportunity to win and let other people see you win, not in a conceited or egotistical way, but in a way that offers hope to people that are really, really hurting. So my name's Alan Thomas, and I unleash human potential through weight loss, and we're changing the trajectory of obesity forever. God bless, and we'll see you next time.